Friday, the 12th of January, and this is your first Washington State Council of Firefighters legislative update for the 2018 legislative session. I'm Geoff Simpson, one of your legislative liaisons for the State Council, and this is Michael White.
Hi there. So we are trying a new thing this year. We're trying to bring this to you by video instead of giving you a text-heavy email once a week. So hopefully this works out. Please give us comments and let us know how we're doing.
We got a lot of material to cover and a little bit of time. We want to ask you to hang in there for just probably 5 minutes or so on this video. We're going to first talk about our legislative conference that happened here on the second legislative day of the session, Tuesday.
So we had 239 members in town for our annual conference. It was moved up this year. We did a one-day conference, but I think we had a really good turnout. A bunch of legislators came that evening to our reception, I think more so than we've had in the past year or two. So it was great turnout. I think we got good feedback and members really engaged with our issues. Kind of our platform issues that they were working on were funding the local public safety enhancement account, which brings in additional revenue for Left 2 benefit improvement. Presumptive disease coverage, which seeks to add stroke, 9 different cancers, and MRSA to our presumptive disease statutes, along with extending the coverage to EMTs, paramedics, and publicly employed fire investigators. And last up was PTSD, looking to establish PTSD as a presumptive disease and also get it allowable as a occupational disease claim.
Yeah, I heard a lot of good feedback from our members too about the session, and just a reminder to everybody that it doesn't end with the one-day, legislative conference. We are going to sometimes ask for your help to contact legislators and continue to work on those relationships when the legislative session is not in full swing, and that's really helpful to Michael and I in our mission down here to do everything we can for the families and members of our organization.
So I already mentioned the presumptive disease bill and PTSD bill. So presumptive disease in the House is House Bill 2633 and Senate Bill 6213. PTSD bill is 6214 in the Senate, and then we have a bill from last year, 1655. So on Monday at 1:30 in the afternoon, we have hearings in the Senate on the presumptive disease bill and the PTSD bill. And also at the same time, we got to juggle a little bit. We have a hearing on the presumptive disease bill in the House. We're also expecting that the PTSD bill in the House will pass off the floor Monday morning.
Yeah, and Michael threw out some numbers there, but don't worry about scribbling them down. We're also going to send out to our regular email list the list of bills that we're really closely tracking and working on. We've got a bunch of bills, as usual, that we're not going to bother you with, that we're tracking on behalf of our members, but a few of the issues that we're working on, Michael's mentioned the 3 kind of marquee issues that we have there, which are the alternate revenue, the expansion of presumptive, and the inclusion of post-traumatic stress disorder protections for our members. And there are a few others that we'd like to talk about here real briefly. Working on a bill that has to do with countywide EMS levies. We have a few countywide EMS levies in the state. The one that's really kind of an issue is King County, because there are so many entities there that have a say in whether or not that issue goes on the ballot. Current law says that any city over 50,000 people gets to have absolute veto power over whether or not the measure goes on the ballot, and we don't think that's democratic. We don't think that provides the security that the citizens there in King County and other areas where they have countywide levies for the future of their emergency medical program. So we've got a bill to address that issue, and it's also going to make all EMS levies after the initial imposition of an EMS levy to be eligible for a simple majority vote instead of the 3/5 vote that's required now.
For a few other bills that we're working on, they haven't been introduced. We've kind of given ourselves a deadline of midway through next week to have the bills introduced. A line of duty benefit for off-duty emergency service bill, dealing with if you are there rendering aid, and we're thinking the terrible situations like mass shootings or the Oso mudslide, that kind of stuff. If you're injured or killed while performing service, establishing a petition process that you could seek coverage.
Yeah, we want our members who are off service to feel like they can engage in performing the stuff they're trained to do and help take care of people in a terrible incident like that. And then be assured that if they get injured or killed while they're doing that, their families or they get the benefits that they need. So we don't have a bill number on that yet, but we'll get that out as soon as we do. I'm working on a bill. You know, we've got firefighters at McNeil Island, about 4 of them I've been told, that are not members of the law enforcement officer and firefighter pension plan. They're in the PERS pension plan, and we've got a bill to fix that. And Representative Christine Kilduff from the 28th District, along with her seatmate Dick Murai, Representative Dick Murai, are sponsoring that bill. And I just dropped that today, so we don't have a number yet, but we'll get that out when we do.
We have a bill that was dropped today for the House. We're still working on the Senate, looking at phasing out some AFFF foam, Class B foam that contains some really toxic chemicals that's being persistent in water systems and ultimately in our bodies. And not only that, but that same chemical is being used to manufacture our bunker gear. So looking at phasing that foam out and then having some disclosure requirements on the bunker gear.
Got another bill that has to do with how military days off are counted. When you're a member of the Guard or the Reserves, you have a certain amount of military leave each year, and there's some confusion among employers about what the definition of a day is. Some of them are applying it as a day begins on midnight and ends on midnight. So our members who work, say, an 8 in the morning shift till the next morning at 8 in the morning are getting charged 2 days of military leave for really one shift off work, and that's not right, and we're going to try to fix that.
Last bill I'm working on is looking at a study conducted by the state legislature in the interim that we're facing a lot of tough problems within the fire service where between our workforce is aging, we need people to replace them, and how do we get them trained? The different kind of bureaucracies within the state governance between the state fire marshal under the state patrol, the DNR, the emergency management department, and how can we streamline the fire service and set policy going forward? That takes care of us for the next 20 years.
Yeah, and that's going to require a couple years' work. And this session, we're just trying to bring together stakeholders and talk about it, have legislation asking for a study on it. That's going to be an interesting process, and hopefully we'll get that passed. The final bill we're going to talk about today is a Left 2 pension plan retirement board request legislation, and that organization headed by Steve Nelson has Michael White as a member of the organization, and Dennis Lawson as the chair of the organization, and they've requested a bill that further defines a veteran for the purpose of what we call interruptive military service credit. If you're off in combat zone, you get your service credit purchased for free, basically socialized across the system, but there are some deficiencies in the way the state law identifies who a veteran is, and there are some recent conflicts that aren't included in the state law. There are some other technical issues, and we'd like to get it straightened out to make sure that our members who are engaging in those conflicts and serving abroad during time of war make sure they get the service credit that's due to them.
That concludes our legislative agenda. In our future updates, we're hoping to do kind of a briefing of what's been going on during the last week and kind of a deep dive into a issue, at least deep enough for 2 or 3 minutes of presentation. So thanks for watching. Let us know what you need, and we appreciate working for you.
See you next time.